Cindy from Winston-Salem watching us on NRB Network. Hello, Cindy.
Hi, how are you?
Great, thanks for being there.
Thank you.
What's going on?
My husband and I have been married 36 years. And 4 years ago, we made a friend who became my best friend and eventually became his mistress.
Wow.
I'm going to try to do this without crying.
Well, you can do it with crying. It's okay.
I've shed enough tears.
I have been right where you are, so I know that it's
So
very,
sorry,
very
Cindy.
painful.
He left 3.5 years ago, and then after a year and a half of that, he came home and stayed for 6 weeks and left again.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's been back home 7 weeks.
Why?
I'm not real sure.
Well, why didn't you? Why wouldn't you have asked him? Why do you want to come home?
I have asked.
What did he say?
The first day or so that he was home, he would say a few things. That the situation there was terrible. He knew there was no future. They had nothing in common. It was just the atmosphere there and the atmosphere here in our home is totally different.
Mm-hmm.
There's no confrontation here. It's quiet. It's peaceful. Apparently there it was not.
For him, it's peaceful. It doesn't sound like it's peaceful for you, Cindy.
Not. I forgive him. I haven't been all that angry with him through all this. I really haven't. I had a little brief spurt last fall, and I decided to file legal separation papers, and but the anger only lasted a few weeks. More than anything, I've been disappointed and hurt. Mm-hmm. The disappointment has been horrific.
Yeah.
Because he is a man that I thought could do no wrong.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, I knew his failings. It's just I could overlook them and say that's just the way he is.
Well, what's the question for us then?
He doesn't want to talk about it. Should I push the issue or continue? Because I think I can cope with it, and I'm pretty sure in my heart I've forgiven him.
Not the issue. You're forgiving him is not the issue.
No.
I'm glad that you did. I'm glad that you don't feel bitterness and resentment. And I hope that there isn't a bunch of it just being covered up out of fear or desperation. But I would be saying to him, it's not good. We're not talking about the elephant that walked into our living room. And so either we need to get some help or you need to get some help if you're going to stay here.
Because, Cindy, if you play the movie forward, I mean, first of all, he came back for 6 weeks and then left again, and now he's back 7 weeks. But let's say he stays. You play the movie forward, and you guys never talk about it, and you go on, and you've been married 45 years, and you've got this thing between you now that has changed your lives forever.
Yes.
And it can remain a really dark spot that you guys constantly avoid, that's a deep wound that could rear its head at any time. Or it becomes something that you allow God to use to deepen your relationship and draw you closer together. He may like that there's no peace, and so you don't want to, stir the waters any. But the absence of conflict isn't peace, as we have just said. And so there does need to be a little bit of conflict, because I think, too, to look at, something excited him about this new person. Something stirred some aliveness in him that maybe the absence of conflict kind of maybe just left him status quo, maybe kind of bored. Who knows what's going on with him? But those things need to be looked at. They must be looked at. And you can't do all the work for him.
No, and Jill's right, Cindy. this will repeat itself because there's something going on that unless you identify it together, you can't fix it. There was an environment there that allowed this to happen and then happen again. And if you don't understand that, it's not going to happen. Now, you talk about forgiving, and Steve said that's not the issue. You can forgive, and there's no real reconciliation because there's nothing that comes from his side. And so the focus has to be on what are you willing to do to rebuild trust? What are you willing to do to make restitution, not financial restitution, but emotional restitution? These are some of the things that need to be talked about, as Joe was saying.
Well, you can't just destroy wedding vows and then come back in as if nothing happened. So, because...
I confess,
go ahead.
There's this... And I go to church. I've changed churches, and I'm in a small group of friends, and I've tried to talk to them because I don't know how I feel. Maybe that was part of the reason I called. I don't know how I feel. I'm happy, but I'm very reserved about it. I have gone off my antidepressants. I have been, not since he's been home, but before, I've been extremely suicidal. But
so the anger is gone at yourself. You what? I'm sorry.
And my friends say, when I've tried to talk to them a little bit, it's peaceful, it's good. I'm not going to say it's not good, but, and they said, well, you should have been careful what you prayed for. Well, gee,
I don't get that. What do they mean?
I don't get it either.
Because I prayed for him to come home.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay,
but that's of course.
Okay, but pray for him to come home and for the marriage to be restored. So it's two. There's got to be two parts.
Right, not just his body to come home. You need his heart there.
Yeah.
Well, did you really want him to come home and be miserable?
No.
He's miserable. He's got one foot in one thing, one foot in the other. He needs help, and he's not going to get it unless you kind of push him toward it.
And I've never been good at pushing him about anything.
No kidding. No kidding.
We kind of guessed that.
Yeah.
Which is, yeah. See, so he's coming home to mom.
And that's how
where it's safe.
Yeah, a man can get involved with his wife's best friend because his wife ceases to be as much of an entity to him as the friend is, because the wife is not even there with demands or desires or wishes in his mind. So he can kind of put you off in a little box.
You become a non-person.
And you become a non-person until he starts to hear some beating on the walls and roof of that box. And then he's got to pay attention again.
And our son has told me, don't make waves, Mom. Just be quiet, Mom.
Oh, he's cut from the same.
Forever is just be quiet.
He's cut from the same cloth as you.
Because if we make waves, what will happen?
It's not pretty.
He'll leave again. That's what she's afraid
He'll
of.
leave again if you make waves.
But if he leaves again because you make waves, he's not really there.
The mistress made waves. She came over to your pool and splashed around.
Yeah, and I do not forgive her. And I know that's a sin, and I'm working on it, but I just don't forgive her.
It's okay.
No,
you don't
it takes
need to
time to
forgive
forgive.
yet.
We're going to send you a book about forgiving the unforgivable, and it'll help you understand that that's
and
all right.
And it's easier to be angry at her versus him, probably.
Now, here's the problem for you, and it's one of these walls I write about. You are disconnected and isolated from everybody. You don't have a real connection with him. You certainly don't have a connection with your old best friend. And now I'm sensing that there's not a connection with your son.
No.
So we've got to help you get reconnected to people. And the first thing that has to happen is the lights have to come on to you saying, not being very pushy is keeping me disconnected rather than connecting me with people. I'm certainly not living by myself, but I sure do feel lonely.
Yeah.
See, if you were here, what I would ask Cindy, I'd say, put up your hand. And then I would push against your hand. And my guess is that as I pushed against your hand, you'd just give away.
Yeah.
And see, what the normal thing is, if I push against your hand, you push back. And that says to me, oh, you're there, you're present, see. But if I can just push your hand away, it means, well, there's a body here, but who's inside there? Is there anybody inside? And that's got to be part of what's going on. And that's what Steve is getting at. You got to be
we
a
all
whole
need
person.
to hit up against other people.
Yeah, so then we know that
That gives us
we're
a sense of
we're
ourselves
us.
and
Yeah.
of the other person.
It's called a boundary.
I don't want to be a doormat anymore. I have
Good.
told
Okay.
everybody all my life.
Okay,
Good
so
for you.
Cindy,
Weird.
good decision. Good decision.
Now, it's
So
not easy.
right, and it's
No.
going to be scary. You're going to be afraid when you start to do it.
Cindy, you are too wonderful a person to not be noticed, seen, appreciated, connected to, respected, enjoyed, but you're missing all of that.
So I think Cindy and her husband need to go to one of our weekends. He needs to go to EMB, and she needs to go to
She needs to go to
Women
that
in
new
the Battle.
Women in the Battle, yeah.
Did you hear that? He needs to go to Every Man's Battle. You need to go to Women in the Battle. And I would be saying to him, honey, I've tried to deal with this on my own. I've tried to be understanding and accepting, and it's landed me and us in really a worse place. If you want to stay here, would you be willing for us to go to these workshops and see what they could do for us?
There's some work that needs to be done. You know, there's
Us, both of them.
because it's unacceptable to stay the same.
Yeah, and he's caught. There's a country western song. I don't listen to country western, but I just know the two lines. I don't even know what song it is. Caught between two fires, one burns with passion, one burns with desire, and that's kind of where he's at. He's not in a comfortable, happy place either, and yet he's looking for peacefulness, but that's not inside of him. So you
And
really,
he's not going to know how to reach out. He's in so much shame.
yeah, and so you've got to take the lead. You know, one of the things could help her, Steve, is let's send her the restitution CD.
Okay.
And listen to it with your husband, Cindy. Listen to it together. And it's about that idea that I said is making restitution, not financially, but emotionally, so that you can begin to repair the relationship. And then what else you going to send her? Forgiving the unforgivable, the restitution.
Those are
And
good
walking
ones.
into walls.
That's what I was waiting for.
Because her wall is disconnected, isolation. Cindy, I'm glad that you called. I hope something we said is helpful.